If you walked into a bank today to borrow money for a house, a difference of 40 points on your credit score could cost you over $100,000 in interest over the life of that loan. That is not an exaggeration. That is the math. We are talking about the price of a luxury car or a college education vanishing into thin air because an algorithm decided you were risky. Most people treat their credit score like the weather. They think it is something that just happens to them. They check it on an app, see it went down 5 points, shrug, and hope it clears up by next week. That is a very expensive way to live. The truth is that your score is not a random number generator. It is a specific formula with 5 specific inputs. If you know the inputs, you control the output. Today, we are opening up the black box. FICO, the company behind the score used by 90% of top lenders, actually publishes the recipe. They tell us exactly what the ingredients are and how much each one weighs. But knowing the ingredients isn't the same as knowing how to cook. I have spent years analysing credit reports and lender guidelines, and I have realised that what the brochure says and how the math actually punishes you are two different things. We are going to break down the 5 factors that determine your financial reputation. We will look at the heavy hitters that make up 65% of your score and the minor factors that people obsess over for no reason. By the end of this, you won't just be watching your score, you will be engineering it. Before we dissect the first factor, a quick note on why this matters. I don't ask for much here, but if you want to stop bleeding money on interest rates and insurance premiums, hitting the subscribe button is probably the best return on investment you will get on your time today. It tells the algorithm that you want to be smarter than the bank. Now, let's look at the pie chart. FICO breaks your score into 5 slices. They are not equal slices. In fact, 2 of them are so big that if you mess them up, the other 3 don't even matter. Let's start with the biggest slice of all. The first factor is payment history. It accounts for 35% of your total score. This is the foundation. If you imagine your credit score as a house, this is the concrete slab. If the slab cracks, it doesn't matter how nice the curtains are. The common belief here is simple. People tell me, "Tom, I pay my bills, so I get the points." But that is a binary way of looking at a nuanced system. Payment history isn't just a checklist of yes or no. It is a record of behaviour over time. The algorithm is looking for reliability. It wants to know not just if you paid, but the severity of any mistakes. Did you miss a payment by 3 days? Or 30 days? Was it last month? Or 5 years ago? This slice is huge because it answers the lender's number one fear. Will I get my money back? Here is the math that scares people, and frankly, it should. Because this factor is weighted at 35%, a single mistake causes disproportionate damage. If you have a pristine score, say around 780, and you miss a payment by 30 days, your score doesn't just dip, it crashes. We are talking about a drop of 90 to 110 points overnight. You could go from excellent credit to fair credit because of one slip-up. Why so harsh? Because the data shows that a recent delinquency is the single strongest predictor that you are about to go broke. The algorithm assumes the worst. It doesn't know you forgot your password, it assumes you ran out of money. And unlike other factors we will talk about later, you cannot fix this quickly. A late payment stays on your report for 7 years. The impact fades, but the scar remains. The psychological trap here is the concept of the grace period. Most credit cards give you a few days after the due date before they charge a late fee. Maybe you pay 5 days late. You pay the fee and you think, okay, I took the hit. I paid the $25. I'm good. But you are missing the invisible clock running in the background. The credit bureaus generally do not record a payment as late until it is 30 days past due. That is the magic threshold. If you are 2 weeks late, the bank hates you but your score is safe. If you cross that 30-day line, the computer reports you to the bureaus and the damage is done. The danger is that people get comfortable playing in that grey zone. They pay a few days late regularly. Eventually, life happens. A few days becomes 31 days, and your financial reputation is torpedoed. So, what is the protocol? It is not just pay on time. That is advice for robots, and we are humans who forget things. The protocol is redundancy. You need a safety net. I recommend setting up autopay on every single account you have, but, and this is crucial, set it for the minimum amount due. I am not saying you should only pay the minimum, you should pay the full balance to avoid interest. But the autopay is your fail-safe. If you get hit by a bus, or you are on a silent retreat in the mountains, the robot pays the minimum, the account stays current, and your 35% slice is protected. You can always go in manually and pay the rest later. But you never, ever want to rely on your own memory to protect the most important asset on your balance sheet. Now, you might be thinking, Tom, I have never missed a payment in my life. So why is my score stuck at 720? Why does it bounce around like a rubber ball every month? This is where most people get frustrated. They think payment history is the whole story. It's not. It's just the foundation. The reason your score fluctuates wildly has nothing to do with whether you paid on time. It has to do with the second factor. This is the factor that accounts for 30% of your score, but in the short term, it is responsible for 90% of your stress. It's called amounts owed, but you probably know it as utilization. And I guarantee you are calculating it wrong. Factor number 2 is amounts owed, weighing in at 30%. The name is misleading. FICO calls it amounts owed, so people think, oh, I owe $200,000 on my house. My score must be bad. No, the algorithm is not judging you for having debt. It is judging you for how close you are to the edge of the cliff. This is primarily about your credit utilization ratio on revolving accounts, like credit cards. It is a simple fraction. The top number is your balance. The bottom number is your credit limit. If you have a credit card with a $1,000 limit and you put $500 on it, you are at 50% utilization. If your friend has a $50,000 limit and puts $5,000 on it, they owe 10 times more money than you, but their utilization is only 10%. Guess who looks riskier to the algorithm? You do. You will hear experts talk about the 30% rule. They say, keep your utilization under 30% and you are fine. That is a safe rule of thumb, but it is not the mathematical optimization point. The data shows that the people with the absolute highest credit scores, the 800 club, usually keep their utilization below 10%. The algorithm is sensitive. It views capacity as a signal of financial stress. If you are using 80% of your available credit, the computer assumes you are living beyond your means, even if you pay it off in full every month. And here is the kicker. It looks at two things simultaneously. It looks at your overall utilization across all cards, and it looks at each individual card. You could have zero balance on 4 cards, but if the 5th card is maxed out, your score will take a hit. You cannot hide a maxed out card in the average. Here is the part that drives people crazy. You pay your bill in full every single month. You never pay interest. Yet, your credit report shows high utilization. Why? Because of the reporting date. Most credit card companies report your balance to the bureaus on your statement closing date, not your due date. The statement date is usually about 3 weeks before the bill is actually due. So let's say you spend $5,000 this month. The statement closes on the 1st. The bill is due on the 25th. On the 1st, the bank takes a snapshot. You owe $5,000. They send that number to FICO. Your score drops. Then, on the 25th, you pay it all off. Great, you paid no interest. But for that entire month, your credit report says you are carrying a $5,000 balance. You are being penalized for debt that you intend to pay. This is the lag time that confuses millions of people. The solution is to change when you pay. If you are applying for a mortgage or a car loan soon, simply paying by the due date is not enough. You need to pay the balance down before the statement date. You want the snapshot to be pretty. I use a strategy called AZEO, all zero except one. If you really want to maximize the score, you pay off every single card to zero before the statement cuts, except for one card where you leave a tiny balance, maybe $10 or $20. Why leave a tiny balance? Because if everything reports as zero, sometimes the older FICO models get confused and think you aren't using credit at all. A 1% utilization is slightly better than 0%. But for most of us, just paying the bulk of the balance 3 days before the statement closes is enough to keep that utilization slice strictly in the green zone. We have covered 65% of the score. If you master payment history and utilization, you are getting a B+. But to get an A+, we have to deal with the next factor. And this is where I see people hoarding useless plastic. I know people who keep a terrible credit card with an annual fee just because they opened it in college. They are terrified that if they close it, their length of credit history will vanish and their score will collapse. They are paying $100 a year for a superstition. Let's look at the math of credit age and why you might be holding on to financial clutter that you don't need. Factor 3 is length of credit history. It is worth 15%. This slice measures how long you have been in the game. It looks at the age of your oldest account, the age of your newest account, and the average age of all your accounts. Lenders like to see a long track record. It proves you aren't just lucky, you are consistent. The myth here is that closing a credit card immediately destroys your history. People think if they close a 10-year-old card, those 10 years get erased from the record today. That is generally false. In the FICO model, closed accounts with positive history stay on your report and contribute to your average age for 10 years after you close them. You don't lose the history immediately. You lose the credit limit, which hurts utilization, but the age factor is much stickier than people realize. The math to watch here is the average age of accounts. This is simply the total years of all your open and closed accounts divided by the number of accounts. If you have 2 cards that are 10 years old, your average age is 10 years. That is excellent. If you rush out and open 2 new cards today, your average age drops to 5 years. You just cut your history in half. This is why churners, people who open 10 cards a year to get sign-up bonuses, often see their scores plateau. They are constantly dragging down their average age. The algorithm interprets a flurry of new accounts as a sign of instability. It wonders why you suddenly need so much credit. However, because this is only 15% of the score, a drop in average age is usually recoverable. It's a flesh wound, not a mortal blow. The psychological challenge with length of history is that you cannot hack it. You cannot pay money to make your accounts older. You just have to wait. This frustrates people who want to fix their credit over a weekend. You can fix utilization in 30 days. You cannot fix age. This leads to bad decision making, like adding yourself as an authorized user on your parent's card. This is called piggybacking. If your mum has a 20-year-old card with perfect payment history and she adds you, that history gets pasted onto your report. It can work, and it can give you a boost. But FICO has gotten smarter about this. They have algorithms designed to detect when you are just piggybacking on a stranger's card versus a legitimate family relationship. It's a shortcut, but the only real fix is time. The protocol for this section is what credit enthusiasts call gardening. You plant the seeds and you leave them alone. Keep your oldest no-fee cards open forever. Put a small subscription on them, like Netflix or Spotify, set it to autopay, and throw the card in a sock drawer. This keeps the account active so the bank doesn't close it for inactivity. If you have a card with an annual fee that you don't use, call the bank and ask to downgrade it to a no-fee version. This preserves the account history and the credit line without costing you money. Don't close your oldest accounts unless you absolutely have to. They are the anchors of your average age. Let them age like fine wine. Factor 4 is new credit, worth 10%. This is where we talk about inquiries. There is so much paranoia about hard inquiries. I see people afraid to apply for a mortgage because they don't want to lose 5 points. Let's clarify. There are soft pulls and hard pulls. Checking your own score is a soft pull. It does nothing. A lender checking your score to offer you a loan is a hard pull. FICO counts these. The fear is that every inquiry is a nail in your coffin. The reality is that for most people, one inquiry is negligible. It might drop you 5 points, and you will likely earn those points back within a few months. The danger is not applying for credit. The danger is applying for too much credit too quickly. The algorithm actually has a mercy rule built in for smart shoppers. FICO knows that if you are buying a car or a house, you are going to shop around for the best rate. You might have 5 different lenders pull your credit in a week. If the algorithm counted those as 5 separate inquiries, it would punish you for being a responsible consumer. So it groups them. Generally, all inquiries for the same type of loan, auto, mortgage, or student loan, made within a 14 to 45-day window, count as just one single inquiry for scoring purposes. This is the math people miss. They take the first offer they get because they are scared to have another lender pull their credit. That is a mistake. Shop your rate. The scoring model expects it. Just don't apply for a credit card, a car loan, and a personal loan all in the same week. That looks like panic. The protocol for new credit is simple. Be strategic. Don't apply for credit casually. Save your hard pulls for when you actually need them. A good rule of thumb is to space out your applications by at least 6 months. This gives your score time to recover from the temporary dip of the inquiry and the lowering of your average age. If you're planning a major purchase, like a house, go into a credit freeze mode for 12 months prior. No new cards, no new loans. You want your report to look boring and stable. Remember, this is only 10% of the score. It's the garnish, not the steak. Don't let the fear of a small ding stop you from refinancing a loan to save thousands in interest. The final factor, also worth 10%, is credit mix. This is exactly what it sounds like. FICO likes to see that you can handle different types of debt. There are 2 main buckets: revolving credit, like cards, and installment loans, like mortgages, auto loans, or student loans. The myth here is that you need to carry debt to have a good score. I have heard people say, "I need to take out a car loan to build my credit mix." Please do not do that. Never pay interest just to build credit. That is like burning down your house to test the smoke alarm. You can have a score in the high 700s with just credit cards. The mix is a bonus, not a requirement. The protocol for credit mix is to let it happen naturally. As you go through life, you will likely get a car loan or a mortgage eventually. When you do, your score might get a little bump because now you have mix. Until then, don't sweat it. There is one exception. If you have absolutely no credit, a thin file, and you can't get approved for a regular card, you might look into a credit builder loan. These are small installment loans designed specifically to add a positive trade line to your report. You pay the bank, they hold the money, and at the end, they give it back to you. It costs a little in interest or fees, but it can be a valid tool to jumpstart the mix. For everyone else, ignore this factor. It will take care of itself. So, let's zoom out. We have 5 factors, but they are not created equal. If you want to win this game, you don't need to juggle 5 balls. You only need to focus on 2. Payment history and amounts owed make up 65% of your score. That is the ballgame. If you pay on time, every time, and you keep your reported balances low by paying before the statement date, you will have a good credit score. It is mathematically impossible not to. The other factors, length, new credit, and mix, are just fine-tuning. They are the difference between a 780 and an 820. And frankly, once you are over 760, you get the best rates anyway. The difference between 780 and 850 is mostly just bragging rights. Now, I want to hear from you. I want to do a little peer review in the comments. Have you ever tried the AZEO method, paying off all cards except one? Did it move your score? Or have you been stuck in the 600s despite paying on time? Let me know your data points. The more we share, the less mysterious this black box becomes. If you found this breakdown useful, share it with someone who is terrified of their credit report. Financial literacy is the only way to stop the banks from winning every single hand. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.